a Serbian film. I wish that I had never seen a Serbian film. Gorehounds love that movie, but it is so nihilistic and so disturbing to me. I don't know if they don't necessarily give me nightmares as much as it's just, it won't leave my brain for a number of days afterwards. And trust me, a Serbian film is not a film you want to get stuck in your head. I'm not. You be the judge of whether or not you want to see it.
There's a point where you feel the devil growing inside your brain. You're just like, okay, get this thing out. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining us. You've reached the Fanatics of Film, and I got my good friend Joe here, and we're talking about American Animals, one of my favorite and Joe's favorites of the year so far. This thing kind of threw us into an entirely different mindset. I loved this film when we first got out of it. We just saw it last week, so I'm trying to recollect and put my thoughts together. But from what I do remember, this thing was a lot of fun and extremely unique, and it's taken, genre crossing, genre mixing, and all that stuff. So
the film is based on a true story of events that happened back in December 2004 at the Transylvania University of Kentucky, where 4 college students decided to rob their rare book library, which houses some of the most valuable American books. I think there was something like $12 million in rare books there, and these 4 students just try and that's the general story, is that they tried to. Actually, they do get away with it. It's actually something that happened, as it says in the trailer and at the beginning of the movie. This is not based on a true story. This is a true story.
Which I thought was really clever. They, this is based, and they literally just remove words. This is a true story. That was really cool.
They literally, each one of these guys served 7 years. So they were all in their early 20s. They're now in their early 30s. They were released a few years ago. They served their time, but the movie is kind of a mixture of a documentary? Well, kind of a documentary, more like a docudrama, in that, so there's interviews with the real culprits and their family members, as well as a recreation by the actors. But
the real people end up being in there, kind of just to kind of tell the story, because one of the most interesting parts I found about this is that there are 2 guys telling 2 sides of the same story, the same experience, but one's like, oh no, it was this. Oh no, we were actually in a car, and then it shows them both in the car, so it shows both scenes, and it actually puts the actual the real person, who it happened to, puts them in the scene.
Yeah,
you remember that? If you remember
that.
Yeah,
no, there was a lot of playing around with that aspect, sort of towards the beginning, where it explores the different viewpoints of recollection. In a situation like this, something that initially started off as kind of a fun idea. 2 guys that kind of had general malaise. That, all 4 of these guys were fairly wealthy, come from upper class to middle class families. They had no previous criminal records. They all sort of followed the books, did everything that was expected. And the 2 central characters to this story, Warren Lipka, played by Evan Peters from American Horror Story, the TV show Invasion, and he is Quicksilver in the new X-Men films. And the other actor, Barry, how do you pronounce his name? Keoghan? Plays Spencer Reinhardt. So basically, Spencer and Warren are the 2 guys who sort of planned this whole thing. It started off as a joke. Spencer was the only one who was going to school at the University of Transylvania University in Kentucky.
Right.
The other people that would be involved, including Warren, were going to different schools. They're both kind of bored with their lot.
How can I tell you if I'm in or I'm out without you telling me the first thing about what I might be in or out of?
One of them has Spencer has he's an art student. Warren has an athletic scholarship. Not really. I kind of hate to say it. It's, just because you've got money, wealth, or come from a decent family doesn't mean that you're happy with where you're at in life. And they kind of fell to the general malaise of the early 2000s, and what started off essentially as a joke, like, wouldn't it be great if we could do something like this? Let's just kind of figure it out.
Because at that time, Ocean's 11 was kind of a new thing anyway, and the film actually pokes fun at Ocean's 11 too, just kind of showing how they're kind of imagining. Yeah, we're just gonna go in there very smooth, and music, upright bass funk music is gonna be playing, and it's Elvis is gonna be singing, and we're gonna be robbing a casino type of thing. So yeah,
that's kind of how they play it too. Is I think in their minds they started seeing it as a sort of heist movie, which is why while they're studying, and I got a kick out of this,
movies.
They're watching heist movie. They're watching Michael Mann's Thief, which I have the Criterion edition of. It's an incredible movie with James Caan. They're watching Stanley Kubrick's The Killing,
I love
which
that flick,
has a Criterion collection and edition of that with Sterling Hayden. It's very influential on Pulp Fiction. It's one I highly recommend. They were watching Ocean's 11, the Steven Soderbergh version. They were checking out, the Snatch, Guy Ritchie. Lots of those movies, so they kind of started creating a movie in their heads. Spencer always kind of thought that eventually they'd reach that insurmountable odd, that road bump that they'd never be able to cross, so they would have to sort of abandon this. Like his intention was never to really go through with the whole thing. But the further they go, they realize that they need more people. So they recruit 2 other friends.
I just love how he's like the whole time. There's the main character of this. He's just like, I at some point I had to think to myself, is this actually going to happen?
Yeah.
He was psyching himself out, thinking, oh, this is just funny and fun, and we're just thinking about it. And that's where it brings into the realism, because everybody's thought about these things, but it's like he's putting the brilliance of it is that. Once again, it's taking an average normal person and putting him into it. These Ocean's 11 movies, they're a famous heist person. It's a famous thief. It's a famous so-and-so from so-and-so, so-and-so.
History of being criminals.
But what I'm saying is that the characters in those other films are very, very fictional. They're very extremely fictional to the point where you literally have to do a skip and a jump to jump inside their skin. Whereas in this film, it's a regular person being thrown into a crime situation, like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, all these things. So I think that's the brilliance of it. Once again, is taking a regular person and putting them into a situation of crime, and so it makes it tugs at all of our own morals, like like the situation that when they find themselves in the room with the book and having to deal with, oh my gosh, I don't want to hurt this poor woman and everything like that. So I think that's one of the biggest things that grabbed me is having this average person thrown into this, going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this, and you really feel like you're right along with them you're in the ride with them, thinking you're going to get caught.
Well, that's part of the fun of the movie, and I say fun very loosely because it starts off fun.
Right.
And there is a lot of humor, and there's a little bit of drama, but it's mostly kind of a fun, almost a friends bonding kind of a thing. Will they do this? Can they do this? Because in most heist films, and it doesn't matter if they're good heist films or if they're bad heist films, in typical fiction heist films, most people that, Thief and The Killing and all these, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, people that go out and do these things usually have a career. Where these guys don't. They start kind of living in their own made-up movie to the point where they see how it's going to go down, and in their mind, it's like a Hollywood heist movie.
Right.
Like Ben was saying, complete with the up-tempo funk, hip-hop, breakbeat style, and everybody's sort of working in unison and wearing the same suits, and the reality of it is it's not like that. The movie does take a sharp turn towards the serious and the darkly dramatic towards the end. It definitely changes the mood of the film. About the midway point, the first time because they actually attempted to rob it twice. The first time, spoilers ahead, by the way, when they actually dress up in like high school makeup to look like old guys, elderly men, to rob this. It's so apparent that these are not actually old guys, but they actually go through some painstaking detail that was impressive to like give themselves crow's feet and things like that. And even then, it's still kind of funny. Nobody gets hurt. It's intense, but it's kind of humorous. But it's the second time that they actually perform the robbery is when everything really takes a dark turn, and the fun is sort of gone, but the style and the feel and the heart of the film is still there. This is a story of 4 guys that thought they could do something great and exciting with their life, trying to feel something, and instead they ended up getting sent to prison for it and hurting someone in the process. And I'm sure it's changed who they are. Just the 2 hours of watching this, I think, was a cathartic experience for me.
One of the most important parts about this film, and unique about it, is that when you're experiencing these things along with them. For instance, they're in the room with the $12 million book. I think it was $12 million, and they're sitting there. Is that it cuts right over to the real person describing the scene. So it cuts right over to the actual person who this happened to. It's a real interview talking to the real person that this really happened to. He's telling the real story, and he is just ashamed of himself of these things that they're doing, and it's so you're feeling that shame and all the remorse and all those things because all these emotions would enter you if you're in that situation. And I really want to drive home the fact that that's how this film made me feel. It made me feel like I was robbing it with them, and these Ocean's 11 movies, the heist movies, they're fun, and you get but this is like you're literally doing it there, and you're feeling at least this is what I felt. I felt all the same racing emotions that would normally enter your brain in that situation. So I really felt that, and I was on the edge of my seat. Like it was, I was reminiscent of the first time I saw Back to the Future, where it's like Doc's, trying to hang the wire on the clock and slide down and all that stuff with the lightning. Same type of thing. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time, but it's actually just you're terrified in a sense.
And I've read some reviews where people have tried to say that feel sorry for the rich white kids who tried to rob the.
It's so stupid.
I personally feel that the movie.
At least it's a real story. At least it's a true
real story, and the movie did make them seem almost likable and sympathetic, and they probably are. But by the end, I don't think the film shies away from that. Not only are they, that they'll forever carry that with them, no matter where they go and what they do. That event in their life will always be there. They'll never be able to live it down. It's a terrible thing that they did, but they did each serve 7 years in prison. And I think that they paid their debt back to society.
Yeah.
And they're all working and trying to not go back to prison.
Yeah.
So they're not... one of the complaints that I read was, that their parents and teachers say they were good kids and came from good homes. And what they're not trying to say that all criminals come from bad homes, because that's certainly not the case, and we all know that. I think what they're trying to say is that they just had not had a history of rule breaking or criminal activity. I mean, Evan Peters' character, where Warren Lipka was a lot more of the rambunctious, but clearly you saw at the beginning of the film, the place he's breaking into to steal food from is somebody he knows. It's probably a family member. They don't go into detail about that, but he doesn't have a criminal history. These guys don't have criminal histories. They were good guys that had, from what I gathered, that had possible career paths set out for them. They weren't so complacent anymore. They wanted to look for something more stimulating, and they chose something really, really dumb that got them in a lot of trouble, but it makes for an incredibly good true crime story. With a lot of interesting little subtle twists and turns. And again, I mean, you could watch it with all of the heist movies we've talked about before, but the difference between all of those films is that this actually happened. And
you can, I mean, if you want to point fingers and because there's a lot of people who did, I guess apparently from what you're saying, some people were pointing, and I knew that they would. Oh, they're just rich white guys. That's fine if you want to point fingers, but you're just being racist and whatever. But the point is that it's a good film. Like the point of going to the movies is to be entertained, and it's a great film. There's a reason why it's 80% on Rotten Tomatoes and all these things. But what a great flick. I loved this film.
I think this was more than being entertained. This was part of...
Yeah.
This is cinema where there are movies that are just for entertainment, and then there are films that can entertain you while teaching you something you didn't know or taking you through an experience, and then there are films that are just about the experience themselves, about the artistry of the cinema. This film had a little bit of each. There are really no... I mean, if they did use CG at all, it would have been...
very minimal.
Small nuances to like just add to the background of a shot or something like that. There was absolutely nobody had superpowers. Nobody had magic. There were no dinosaurs. Like it's honest storytelling with the visual medium in a way that is sorely lacking in a lot of films these days.
And extremely well written and extremely well shot. Just beautifully shot. Everything all the way up until the end. I mean, you're feeling remorse for them, and we're not going to spoil the end at all.
I felt remorse. So is that I felt like I hoped that they learned a lesson and that they got what they deserved.
Well, because they were just like, some of the guys were just like lying in bed with headphones on, waiting for the cops to yank him out of bed.
Yeah.
That's where I was feeling that you can't help but feel a little sorry for him, whatever. But yeah, for
me it was that tension of, just knowing that any second you're going to be grabbed for this thing that you did, and we're not going to go into all those details.
Yeah, we don't want to give away too much,
because it's worth seeing. I urge you to see this film. It's part of MoviePass's first venture into films. The Orchard picked it up from Sundance this year for distribution.
Oh, cool!
But MoviePass is the wider distributor, and this film is doing really well for MoviePass as far as critical. I think it's got an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. Where the other film that MoviePass picked up, Gotti with John Travolta, has a 0%, and apparently has nothing but terrible ratings. So
that is really sad. I mean, I hadn't even seen a trailer on this thing yet, but
Gotti? The trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I don't understand what happened to John Travolta. After Pulp Fiction sort of saved his career, he was doing great movies. Get Shorty, Phenomenon, Primary Colors, The General's Daughter, and then suddenly...
Michael? Just kidding. I don't know if that was good. I can't remember if that was any good.
No, Michael I would not include in that.
I can't remember if that was any good. I just remember
Michael was kind of riding on the heels of Get Shorty and in between that and Phenomenon.
But I did love Get Shorty. By the way, if you have not seen Get Shorty, it's the same type of... same type of stuff. It's really, really good. So
Get Shorty's really good, but the sequel, Be Cool, was not.
Yeah, I know.
I was really disappointed by that.
So in general, just... my 2 cents, this was a great film. It is my favorite. I have 2 favorite films, and Joe and I are going to talk about both of these tonight. And this is my first favorite film of the year so far. I love this movie. It was so great. And I think I need to go see it again, just because of all the emotions that it brought me to come to face with. And I think it was extraordinary. It was gripping, entertaining, and like I said, it puts you in the situation. It's a situational film. It brings you into that experience.
And I gotta say, as much as I like, I gave up on American Horror Story, but as much as I like Quicksilver, played by Evan Peters, and I did love the TV show Invasion, which ran from 2005 to 2006 on ABC after Lost. That's where I first saw Evan Peters. I feel like this movie really makes him stand out. I feel like he could become an A-list leading man actor. And he's got the talent for it. And almost, I hate to say this because I do like the X-Men movies, but I almost feel like he's underused.
Yeah.
His Quicksilver is so entertaining, but this film, he just steals every scene he's in, and the cast is really good. I mean, Ann Dowd as Betty Jean Gooch, the woman who sort of runs the private library. She's also in Hereditary. And she's just, it's just a phenomenal Udo Kier has a nice little cameo in it where I think he utters about 5 words, but just seeing that stone cold face, the man who was in Andy Warhol's Dracula and Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, Blade, and just hundreds and hundreds of movies. Udo Kier, just to see him pop up in this movie almost legitimized it for me as, okay, this is going to have some headway. Personally, like Ben was saying, I've seen a lot of enjoyable films this year. I enjoyed Black Panther. I enjoyed Avengers. I enjoyed Solo. I enjoyed The Incredibles. I really enjoyed A Quiet Place. The First Reformed. Hereditary, Isle of Dogs. This, You Were Never Really Here. This is probably for me the most enjoyable film-going experience I've had all year, which says that I, for the most part, need to get out and see more movies. So, because there's a lot of great films out there, and a lot of them are not based on comic books or video games or TV shows, and I urge you to go out and check some of these films out, because sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised at what you get out of them. Now, I'm going to give this film 4 out of 4 stars. Absolutely.
I give this film 5 out of 4 stars. So there. No,
There you go.
I loved it, and Joe and I both love this film, and we appreciate you guys. Why don't you, if you like this video, give it a like, and please subscribe to the channel. Support the content. We have more of this coming up. And
like and subscribe. Go see the movie. Tell us what you think. Like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.
have a good day.
Good.